Alright, hello. This time I will be going over the 2023 Mathematics State Test. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. I already filled out the paper and then I lost the data, so now I gotta do it again. I had to do it again and it took a while. So hopefully I'm still able to explain it well with decent graphs and stuff, but it may not be as good quality. Let's begin. Okay, number one, basically you have all this stuff, plug in all the values they give you. Your height is 60, and you get this pressure right here. 2, Ted made Terry, ordered this stuff, all that stuff. The tax rate is this, and they added $5, which is the total cost. Well, add up all the price of all the items, multiply it by your tax rate plus 1, so 1.0825, and add your $5 tip. 3. Given these points, L1 contains point C and is parallel to AB, and find this point on L1. Okay, so if it's parallel, it means it has the same slope as AB. AB goes down 6 and to the right 12, so a slope of negative 6 over 12 or negative 1/2. And since you know it has to contain this point, you can do point slope form where you simply do x minus that point plus the y value, and it's guaranteed to have that point. If you do that and plug in -9, you get 19.5. Pam's Pizza offers small, medium, large. Friday sold 138. 5 more small than large, 11 more medium than small. How many medium pizzas? So, uh, they sold 138. This is going to be a 3 by 4 matrix that we're going to act as a 3 variable linked equation. So, one small pizza plus the number of small pizzas plus the number of medium plus the number of large pizzas totals up to 138 pizzas. There are 5 more small pizzas than large pizzas, so a small pizza is equal to this large goes over on this side of the equation, so 5 plus 1 large pizza, and that represents this equation. Then the same for the 11 more than small. Small plus 11 gets you the medium. And if you do that, go to matrix and then math, scroll up RF and put in your matrix, you'll get 55 medium pizzas. 5. Diane took a trip playing over the Billings, distance of that long. Total drive time was this. She drove that much in that time, and what was her average speed on day 3? Well, she drove the rest of the trip on day 3, I suppose, so its speed is simply distance over time. Subtract your distances to figure out how far she traveled, subtract your times to figure out how long it took to travel that. And you get 68.9. Number 6, another three-dimensional or 3-variable matrix. In this case, mom is 28 years older than Kathy, so Kathy plus 28 is equal to mom. Grandma is 3 more than 6 times Kathy's age. Grandma is equal to 3 plus 6 Kathy. And then, what was the last one? Twice mom's age is 5 more than grandma's age. So, 2 mom is equal to grandma plus 5. If you do that, RF again, you'll get a 12 for Kathy's age. A landslap, Blue Box, 10 miles west, 50 miles south, 25 miles east, 10 miles south. So you simply figure out how far he is in the x and y direction. He's 25 miles south and 15 miles east after all that, and you'd use Pythagorean theorem to figure out the distance. Okay, given the points A, B, and C, find the distance from point C to the midpoint of AB. Well, the midpoint of AB is going to be each of these x values, the average of the x values and the average of the y values. So the average of -6 and 4 is -1. Average of -8 and 10 is 1. So you simply find the distance from C's respective x and y to those. So -6 plus 1 and -2 minus 1, because you have to subtract the midpoint to find distance from it. If you do that, you get 5 squared plus 3 squared basically, and 5.8. 9. Consider 4 consecutive positive even integers. 4 times sum of the first and second is 42 greater than 3 times sum of third and fourth. What is the largest? Okay, well 4 times the first, which is going to be x, plus the second, which is the even number after x, so x plus 2, is 42 greater than 3 times the third and the fourth, as represented by x plus 4 and x plus 6. Because it's the second even number after x and the third even number after x. And the largest number is simply equal to x plus 6, so 38. 10, this is your proportion problem. Directly proportional to length, inversely proportional to cross-sectional area. So you're looking for your k value here. The resistance of 0.1 is given when k multiplies by the directly related and divides by the inversely related. Once you have k, you simply plug in your new values. Length of 32 and an unknown cross-sectional area gets you 0.626. Then you have to multiply by 100 squared to get to millimeters squared, and divide by pi because that represents the area of the circle that's being represented. And then multiply by 2 to go to radius from the area. Or sorry, radius to diameter after you square root the area over pi. 11, consider a circle. Length of minor arc ACD is 114. Minor arc EB is 48. What is measurement CAD? Okay, how angles work. Can't say why exactly it happens. Basically, this angle times 2 plus this angle is this one. So basically, or in other words, this angle minus that one over 2 is equal to 2 times this angle right here. So given CD is 114, EB is 48. You subtract those, divide by 2, and get 33. I don't know how to prove that, but it's a thing, and it's not too hard to remember. So yeah, let's continue. Equilateral triangle with an inscribed circle. The area of the triangle is this. What is the area of the inscribed circle? First off, let's figure out the side of the triangle. So side area of an equilateral triangle is side squared over 4 times square root of 3. Gets you your number. And then once you have that, the inscribed circle is going to basically be represented like you have your triangle that looks like this. And this is going to be your inscribed circle that marks here. So you need to do, so basically you have this side over 2 to get here for this triangle. Then you need to do cotangent of the 60-degree angle that forms an equilateral triangle like that. And then you'll get the radius of your circle. So tangent of 60 or power to -1 or cotangent times your side over 2. That value is squared and multiplied by pi to get 47.0. Consider the circle on the right. FG is equal to 18. GH is equal to 16. JK 8. What is FG? Another interesting fact about circles I do not know how to prove is that for these kind of things where there are secant lines, your outside times your entire thing has to be equal regardless of where you're going. So FG times FH has to be equal to FJ times FK. So we have those values here. Your FJ is unknown, so FJ is X. And then FK is your 8 plus X, because JK plus FJ. And if you do that, you'll get 21.1. Point C is rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise to point E. Point E is reflected across the y-axis, point F. And point F is translated 15 units to the right. What is the coordinates of point G, basically? So if you're rotating 90 degrees counterclockwise, that means you flip your numbers and make the first one negative, so negative 6, 4. And if you kind of map it out in your head, you can kind of prove that. That's how I did it, instead of just memorizing flip and then make negative. And then reflect across the y-axis. That means you're reflecting across the line y equals 0, which means you're basically flipping your x. If you can, again, map that out if you struggle to understand that. But now your point is 6, 4, and then 15 units to the right. That is not the correct number that is modified. But either way, the answer is no different. 21 plus 4 is 30, or is 25. Consider this kite, ABCD. AB is equal to BC is equal to 12. and CD is equal to DA is equal to 20, and diagonal AC is 12. Find the area of the kite. Okay, basically what's going on is this side is 12, this side is 12, and this diagonal is 12. We need to figure out this other diagonal here. So we can use Pythagorean theorem for that. This diagonal is going to split this other one in half. So each part of this diagonal is 6. So to figure out this part, you do Pythagorean theorem. 12 squared minus 6 squared gets you, square root of that gets you this. And 20 squared minus your 6 squared gets you that. And once you have that, you multiply the two diagonals and divide by 2 to get the area of your kite. Okay, base of a pyramid is a regular hexagon with pyramid 72. Height of the pyramid is 18. What is the volume? Area of a hexagon. Area of a multi-sided figure is your side length times power to 2 times your number of sides over 4 over tangent of 180 over the number of sides. And then so if you do that, you get the area of your hexagon. Very interesting equation. Just more things I don't know how to prove. You can go down a tunnel hole to probably prove it if you wanted, but I don't need to do that because I've already memorized it by now. Other things I do like to prove though to understand. Anyway, continuing, height of the pyramid is 18. Base times height over 3 or base area times height over 3 is the volume of a pyramid. 2245. Okay, 17 to 18. Circle shown has an area of 452. BAC has an angle of 30.0 center. Find the area of the triangle. Well, first off, you need to figure out what AB is. You have your area of the circle, so simply solve for your radius, square root of 452 over pi, and multiply by 2 to get AB. Then once you have that, BC is going to be equal to sine of 30 times AB. AC is equal to cosine of 30 times AB. So your area of the triangle can be represented by AB squared times cosine of 30 times sine of 30 over 2 because it's a triangle. Do that, you get 125. Find the area of sector BOC. This angle, BAC, is an inscribed angle of 30 degrees, which means the equivalent center angle is 30 times 2, or 60 degrees. So, and that center angle represents the measurement of arc BC. So once you have that, you do your equation for sector. So the area of your area of the circle at that point. So your radius squared times pi times your 60 degrees over the entire 360 degrees of your circle to get BOC sector. And oh yeah, you're okay. Never mind. You're not looking for that is just it. You're not removing BOC triangle. So yeah, 75.5. 19 and 20, triangle DEF is what? Well, you'll be using SS program. You'll be using Pythagorean theorem to figure out each side. Square root of 16 squared plus 12 squared. Do that for all of them. Do that for all the sides with their respective coordinates. And check for the equal ones. You'll find that two sides are equal and it is the right triangle after you finish SSS program. Find the area of the triangle. We can use our shoelace program for this. Go to polygon, 3 sides, shoelace. All these things are in L1 and L2. X values in L1, Y values in L2. If you've seen any of the other math videos, you probably know the drill by now. Do that, you get 100. Okay, 21 is annoying, but you can, or annoying to explain at least. Circle of center O has diameter of 30. Chord AB is perpendicular to diameter CD. If AB is 18, find the area bounded by chord AB and minor arc AB. Okay, in this case, first off, you got to figure out what this side basically is from here to here. So, interesting thing is about how chords work. Chords intersecting in a circle. One side of the chord times the other side of the chord has to be equal to the two sides of the other chord multiplied. So since this is split perpendicular, it splits the 18 in half, the diameter does. So 9 squared is equal to x times 30 minus x. Do that, you get like x equals 3, I believe. So this side over here is your radius of 15 minus x, so 12. Once you have that, you can figure out this angle. Tangent -1 of 9 over 12 multiplied by 2. You get this entire angle. And then you can finally do area of sector minus arc, basically. So you do your radius squared times your angle over the entire 360 degrees times pi. Don't forget times pi. Did I forget to tell you that? No, I didn't. No. Actually, yeah. No, I didn't. Never mind. Sorry. So you get your angle, radius squared times your angle over the entire 360 degrees times pi, minus your triangle, which is side squared times sine of your angle over 2. Do that and you get 36.8. 22 average price was 0.2 cents 60 years ago. It's now 2.5. What's the annual rate of inflation? So some rate of inflation power to 60 multiplied at 0.22 to 2.5. So it's just a 60th root of that value. And you get 1.0413, so 4.13% inflation. Consider an arithmetic series, fourth term 31, 12th 103. Find sum of the first 27 terms. Okay. First off, we need to find the common difference. So the change over the amount of terms it took to get that change is 9, as given by this equation right here. And then you can find the 0th term by going back 4 terms, 31 minus 4 times 9 to get the -5. And then you can do your summation from 1 to 27 of -5 plus 9x. Calculator function, go to math, sum, etc. You probably already know this. You're viewing the state tutorial. 24, math consultant earns 80K in his first year. Each year his salary increased. What is the total amount earned over the first 12 years? So sum from x equals 0 to 11 of 80K times 1 plus 0.08 power to x. Okay, so I guess I should explain it. Basically, each year his salary is 80,000 times the 1.08, the exponent, powered to however many years he's done it, which represents the salary increase. So you simply do sum of x equals 0 to 11 for his first 12 years. Because he earns 80K his first year, so that would be kind of, it's x equals 1 to 12. But you don't want it, but that would be annoying to go to 0th year. So yeah, just 0 to 11. 25, Hawk is positioned on top of a tall building, looking down at a mouse on the ground, heading towards the base of the building at 6 inches per second. Used to be 15 degrees, now it's 25 degrees. How tall is the building? So basically what we're looking at is tangent is opposite over adjacent. Opposite never changes, but adjacent does. But we know that it has to be, if you multiply by adjacent, you get the constant opposite, which never changes. So you do the original 15 degrees times your unknown starting distance from the top or from the building. That has to be equal to tangent of 25 times your new adjacent, which is your original adjacent minus the amount the mouse travels. So 240 seconds for 6 over 12 feet. Do that, and you'll get the distance, the original distance to the building, and then you simply do tangent of 15 times that distance to get your height of the building. 26, Earth is at sea level, latitude of this, radius of the Earth is 3960 miles. What is the linear speed of the point on the Earth's surface? Okay, we need to figure out the diameter of the Earth at that point. So we can start off with our normal stuff. Radius times 2 pi to get diameter or circumference. Sorry, we're looking for the circumference at that point. And then because it's 36 degrees dot north, you multiply it by cosine of those values to represent the horizontal distance that represents the circumference. And then you divide by 4 because, or 24 because the Earth rotates once every 24 hours. And then if you do that, you get 835.1. Monday, there was heavy traffic at 7:30. Okay, only averaged 56 miles per hour, arriving 16 minutes late. Tuesday, she left the work and went 70 miles per hour, arriving on time. How far is her commute? So basically, it took her 16 minutes more time traveling 56 miles per hour to equate the 70 miles per hour time. So this equation will help us figure out how long it would take her if she's driving at 70 miles per hour. So because you simply go to EQ solver, assign those equal to each other, and you get like x is 1.06. So like 1.06 hours to get to our destination. Multiply it by our speed, 74.7. Three of the roots of f of x, fourth degree polynomial, are this. If they are all rational numbers, then what is b plus c plus d plus e? Okay. For all of these numbers to be rational, what has to happen is you have to cancel out this irrational square root by making your last root 1 plus that square root instead of 1 minus that square root. Once you have that, you can basically replace x with 1 in your equation to figure out b, c, d, and e. And you can do that by writing it in terms of 1 minus your root, or x minus each root, and then assign 1 for x. And that will get you all of the coefficients combined if you multiply them all, but you're not including this 1x power to 4, so you subtract 1 at the end to get 59. Range of the function f of x is equal to cosine a of 1 is what? Cosine gives unique values all the way starting at 0 to pi. And basically, so it never makes sense for arc cosine, which is returning those values that make cosine unique, to be anything other than 0 to pi. Or, it would have to be 0 to pi. If sine of negative 1 of x plus sine negative 1 of y is equal to pi over 2, then x squared plus y squared is equal to what? Okay, this is a little kind of hard to explain logically, but basically this entire thing revolves around the fact that sine of x is equal to cosine of pi over 2 minus x. So basically, if you kind of imagine that out, how in the world would I explain it? Basically, if you imagine these as angles and then I guess sine them back, like bring this pi over 2 over. Oh yeah. Do sine negative 1 of your side, get your angles like x or theta and theta 2. Move sine of this angle over here, and then do like, it's so hard to explain. But basically, this sine of negative 1 of y, the fact that it totals up to pi over 2 means it's basically the same as sine negative 1 of x plus cosine negative 1 of x is I can't explain it very well. I'm sorry. Hopefully you kind of understand where I'm going for. The pi over 2 is transferred, converting this sine to cosine, and then you're taking your value squared, so sine squared plus cosine squared, which we know is 1 based on trig identities. It's also just the only reasonable number you could guess. Like, come on, you're going to guess 1.25. Get out of here. Coordinates of this foci are AB and AC. C minus B plus A is what? Basically, the fact that you're subtracting the difference in foci means you're looking for 2 times the distance from the center, and then you add in your x value. So you need to convert this. You need to convert this in terms of your y plus 1 and then x plus 2, y plus number and then x plus number to remove these 8y and negative 4x. Divide your y's by 4, you get y plus 1 squared, 2 resultant 4y squared, 8y. You have to add on a corresponding 4 at the end on top of this 4. Then you do the same thing for your x, and then that results you in your subtracting that 4 back and getting 4 at the end. And now that you do that, your equation for the foci is basically this r squared over the coefficient attached to the x or y's. So yeah, 4 plus 1. I really wish, I mean, maybe I could prove this to you or better explain it, but I don't want to be here 10 years. But, and then your x value that your x center is -2, so subtract 2 from that. Do that, you get 2.47. If you want to learn a little more, you can go look up pre-cal stuff or talk to Mr. Covington or I don't know. And he can give you a more in-depth explanation than I can with a computer and none of your feedback. So, Perihelion and Aphelion. I have no idea what these terms are. This is probably like the one reason no one got a perfect. It's like no one knows what these are. I learned how to figure out the eccentricity of this stuff. You could potentially figure out with just trial and error. It's the difference of these two numbers over the sum of these two numbers. No idea why. It's just how it is. Don't even know what perihelion and aphelion mean, but that's just how it is. If you search it up, you'll find that to be the case. Or just trial and error on the test and you may have gotten it. But you can ignore the 10 power to 6 because you're multiplying by it and then dividing by it. So that'll help you speed up your typing. Do that, you get 0.0167. Consider this series was the 9th term. So let's look at what changed from the previous number to the next one. Plus 2, plus 4, plus 8, plus 16, plus 32. Pretty clear pattern. You're adding 2 power to n minus 1 to the previous term. And then you put that in your sequential mode. Go to mode, sequential, go and put this equation into it. Assign your y1 and y2 to 5 and 7. And you get 515 as your 9th term. The graph of this is what? Okay, something you got to realize is that x squared plus 4xy plus 4y can be factored out to this. So once you have that, you can square root both sides and you get plus or minus 1 is equal to x plus 2y. Those are two lines. It's two parallel lines. Despite what it may look like, it's actually just that. Just two lines. 35, sine u program. Put in your lower, put in your higher, put in your period. It goes from high to low in 18 hours, so your period is 2 times that. And then you're looking for when it's higher than 60 degrees, so you know your y. 60 degrees, you get 15.1 as your time. Consider this curve, the rectangular equation that represents the curve is y is equal to f of x. F of 10 is what? Well, okay, figure out what t value makes x be 10, and then plug that t value right into y, your y equation. And if you do that, you get 49.8. Consider the curve defined by polar equation. R is equal to cotangent squared, cosecant squared. Rectangular equation that represents the curve is that. H of x is equal to what? Okay, I'm going to be real with you. I do not want to convert this to a rectangular equation. That sounds like pain. So I'll do a cop-out instead. My entire strategy on these is basically don't convert. just do the smart, quicker thing because you got 40 seconds per question. So basically what this R value does is it acts as the hypotenuse of your equation. So this is the distance of your hypotenuse, which means if you want to figure out the x, you can multiply that by cosine. So cosine of your angle. So you simply put your equation, multiply it by cosine, and figure out when that's equal to 8. Then once you have that, you do a similar idea for your y. It gives you the hypotenuse, and you're looking for the y value. So sine of x times your x you got before, all this stuff, and you get 4.0. Also just probably a clean 0.0 guess, if we're being honest. 1 meter long string is cut into 2 pieces. One piece forms a circle, other piece forms a square. Area of the circle is equal to area of square. What is the diameter of circle? So let's set those equal to each other. Your meter that's contributed to the circle will form the circumference. So divide by pi, divide by 2, my bad. Divide by pi, divide by 2, square it, times pi. And then that will get you the area of the circle. And then anything that's not contributed to the circle is contributed to the square. This is 100 centimeters. All the answers are in centimeters. Convert 1 meter to 100 centimeters, and you got that. 100 minus x represents the centimeters contributed to a square. There are 4 sides in a square, and the area is a side squared. Set those equal to each other, and you'll get an x value of like 46. So the diameter is simply that value over 2. Right? Yeah, it's just circumference over 2. Okay, general form of the equation, plane passing through, that is that. A plus B plus C plus D is that. I don't completely understand these kind of vectors like this, but the thing that's interesting to me is that you basically, what has worked and does give you the correct answer is doing like you do on a lot of vectors, doing kind of the dot products, 7 times 2 minus 4 times 3 plus 6 times 5. And then if you multiply that by -1, you'll basically get this D value right here. And then basically all the X and Y values are the same, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it technically forms a perpendicular vector or something like that. Really weird. Maybe it's just coincidence. I don't think so. It's like you can be perpendicular with the same vector. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But in any case, yeah, that's what worked. So dot product gets you the negative, this D, and then your original numbers are the same for some reason. 40, the equation of the directrix is shown on the right. Y is equal to K. Stat edit these points, and you'll get an equation. And then you figure out your A value, so your AX squared. It's negative 0.5 in this case. So you do your equation for focus, -1 over 4 over your point or directrix, -1 over 4 over your slope. Do that, you get plus 0.5. 14 plus 0.5 is 14.5. Shortest distance from the origin to the graph of the parabola is what? Okay, basically distance from to the origin is based on your change in x squared plus square root of your change in x squared plus your change in y squared. So you simply figure out when that value reaches its minimum. So when the derivative is equal to 0. So d over dx of square root of your y squared plus your x squared has to be equal to 0 to reach its minimum. Do that and actually calculate the distance, so square root of y squared plus x squared, and you get 1.27. Table gives selected values for differentiable function f, in which of the following intervals must there be a number c, such that f prime of c is equal to -9.5. So basically this is the mean value, I believe the mean value theorem. Basically it's saying that the average rate of change, if there, or basically some point within one point and another point has to be equal to the derivative has to be equal to the average rate of change. The average rate of change for 6 to 8, as you can see, is -9.5, which satisfies this interval equations, basically just saying the mean value theorem. So yeah, 6 to 8. Y normal to the curve, in other words, a perpendicular to the curve, intersects the x-axis at that point, and you got to figure out what point that is. So first off, you got to figure out the equation. So what's the derivative of this function at x equals 3? It's 3 over 2. Perpendicular bisector, so you power it to -1, make it negative. So your slope on the normal line is -2 over 3. And you know that you are at the point 3 and then a -1 if you plug in 3 to this equation. Do that, and you get an x value sign equal to 0 because y is 0, and you get an a value of 1.5. Let f be continuous such that integral from 0 to 15 is 12, 15 to 20 is -4, 10 to 20 is 6. What is integral from 0 to 10? So basically, integrals can kind of be added together in a way. So the integral from 0 to 10 plus the integral from 10 to 20, the same thing as the integral from 0 to 20. Well, what do you know? Integral from 0 to 15 plus integral of 15 plus 20 is also the integral from 0 to 20. 12 plus 12 minus 4 is equal to 6 plus your unknown. X equals 2. Particle moves along the x-axis so that at time greater than 0, its acceleration is given by a of t is equal to 6t. At t equals 0, the velocity of particle is negative 6. Position of the particle is 3. How far did the particle travel from 0 to t equals 4? Okay, first off, we got to convert acceleration to velocity. So we have to take the integral of this equation. So 3t squared plus c, you got to figure out what your c is. At t equals 0, velocity is negative 6, so your c is negative 6. And then the amount the particle travels, because it can travel in negative and we want that to count as positive, the only way you can make it count as positive is do the integral of your derivative of your position, which cancels it out, or the derivative of your position equation is your velocity equation. So you take the integral from 0 to 4 of the absolute value of your derivative, and that's the only way you can you can make those negative dips count as positive. Because if because like a sine equation from 0 to pi doesn't travel 0, it travels like an arc. So 46, consider the first quadrant region bounded by the curve, this, below the x-axis, left by the y-axis, right by the line y equals 2. Find the periphery. What the periphery is basically, it is the perimeter of your region. So at x equals 0, it is 6 tall. Or put this into y1, you'll see that at x equals 0, it goes up 6. X equals 0 to x equals 2. And then your y of 2 is around like 10 or something. And then your last part of the perimeter is this arc length right here. The equation for arc length is integral of square root of 1 plus your derivative squared. So once you do that, you get 23.1. Kind of sorry, I kind of wish I was able to prove more of these things to you. It's like, I don't want to spend forever to maybe prove it in a way you can understand, and two, I also don't know all the proofs myself. I just listen to the equations I know work. I mean, I do like the proof stuff sometimes, but that's mostly stuff like if I see it a lot, or if I just can't accept it. Like 48, I'll be able to prove 48 to you. Kinda. Okay, so this is your distance equation. Distance, t equals 0, runner travels south 7.5 miles per hour, and 1 mile east of the starting point, the car is traveling at 30 miles per hour at that destination. So your x distance is going to be that 1 mile minus the 30 miles per hour times your time squared. Or this is your x distance. As you can imagine, only the car is traveling on the x-axis. Square it, then your y distance squared, so 7.5 times your time squared. When is that equal to 0? When is the distance at a minimum? So the derivative is 0. Then you figure out what, you plug your x value back in. Actually, no, you do not need to plug your x value back in. Never mind. Don't do that. Your x value will get you the time, and then you got to convert it to seconds. So yeah, get rid of that. Times 3, 600. 48. This is a kind of an interesting one where I learned how to do it. It's an interesting fact about how you can kind of divide it, derivative factors like dx and dt and have it make sense. So find d squared y over dx squared when t equals 4. You cannot put these equations over to each other and take the derivative twice. That isn't quite how it works. What you need to do is you need to first find the derivative of dy over dt, then find the derivative of dx over dt and divide them. This will cancel out the dt parts because you're dividing by it, and then this division and this division reverses itself. So basically you have dy over dt times dt over dx, which if you simplify is dy over dx. Cool. Now you have to do the derivative of that function. So you'll want to keep the function like that. So find the derivative, put it over the derivative of x, and then take the derivative of that with respect to t. And once you have that, you have d squared y over dx dt. Well, you don't want dx dt, you want dx squared. So divide by dx, multiply by dt. You are dividing by dx over dt. Do that, divide it, and you will get 6. Kind of cool how they basically act as variables in a way. 49. Teresa was 20 yards from Mouse when a balloon rose at 10 feet per second. When it was 80 feet from the ground, the angle is increasing at what? So your angle, theta, is opposite, or tangent of your angle is opposite over adjacent. Your opposite is 80 plus 10t, and your opposite, and then your adjacent is 60. So you have to do the derivative of that with respect to t. So how you do that is derivative of tangent of theta, secant squared of theta, d theta over dt, because you're respecting t, not theta, is equal to, this would be by distributive property, this would be 4 over 3 plus t over 6. The 4 over 3 gets rid of, dies, I guess. Then the t is taken the derivative of, so it's equal to 10 over 60. And then you can figure out your theta by tangent -1 of, bt over mt. That's your angle right now. And then plug that in, and you'll find d theta dt, which is 0.060. 50, the length of the curve, y equals 3 cosine of x over 4 from pi to 2 pi is given by what? Well, we already talked about this. Arc length is the integral of square root of 1 plus your derivative squared, e. If you do the derivative, you get a -3 over 4 sine of x over 4. Square it and you get this. 51, dy over dt is equal to -0.005 y squared. Find the amount where y is the amount present, and find the amount on 2040. I'm going to be real with you. I can definitely write this in y equals, but that is a waste of time. What we can do instead is we can use a program. So put this equation into y1, use approximation, a Euler's approximation, with basically as many rectangles as your calculator can handle without taking 10 years. So if you do that, you'll get like 9.98, which pretty obvious it's 10. Basically, you're just approximating the actual answer, which is more than enough for this problem. Put this into y1, approx, Euler, you got it. Okay. Yeah. Actually, hold on. Let me just. I don't remember there being a squared. Yeah, and then you gotta put in it starts at time equals 0 and has 100 in it. Yeah, okay. Okay, 52. Following lifts gives the 5-number summary for the maximum bench press for a large group of Texas high school football players. What percent of players had between 20 and 480? Basically, a 5-number summary is min, Q1, median, Q3, 480. So 0th percentile, 25th, 50th, 75th, 100th. 100th percentile minus 25th percentile is 75th percentile, 75%. 53, the Potter County Sheriff's Department reports response time to emergency calls. Mean of 18, standard deviation of 6.5. What percent time for over 25 minutes? This is your very standard normal CDF problem. Your minimum is 25, your maximum is 99909. Mean of 18, standard deviation is 6.5, and 14% of response times take that long. 54, this is your This is your least squared regression line given mean and standard deviation. The equation for that is your slope is going to be this correlation coefficient, negative 0.91, times standard deviation of y over standard deviation of x as your slope. And then it has to go through the points 150 and 2000 because those are the mean. X minus 150 plus 2000. Plug in 300 for that, you get 830. $55 over 2,000 high school seniors took the ACT test. Mean of 21.6, standard deviation of 4.6. If two students were selected at random, what's the difference probability their score was greater than 7? Okay, standard deviation with two groups is equal to the Pythagorean of their standard deviations, or basically square root of standard deviation squared plus standard deviation squared. So your new SD is just that, 4.6 squared times 2. And then you have normal CDF. It's dual-sided, so it can be 7 less or 7 more. Or, well, you got to do 1 minus because you're wanting for a difference greater than 7. So you simply plug in those values. Your mean, you don't have to care about, or the mean difference is 21.6 minus 21.6, so 0. Enter new SD. Do that, you get 0.282. D6, and Cindy performed an independent test, each at 0.05 significance level. What's the probability of committing a type 1 error with at least 3 of 12? A type 1 error is when you falsely claim that the test is or test proves something when it doesn't. Basically, it means that you got this 0.05% or unluckier event. So basically, this entire equation is asking you, what is the probability that you hit 3.05% chance is in a 12 test? So we can do that by subtracting 1 from the chance of getting 2 or less of those tests, which is what binomial CDF does. 12 trials, probability of 0.05, and you're looking for 2 or less of them hitting. Subtract that from 1, you get 0.02. 57, chi-squared test. All right. Here's the deal about those. I'm going to just tell you how to do it, how to do a chi-squared test, and get the p-value. Basically, you're looking for this x squared value, and that is equal to the distance from your expected value squared over your expected value. Well, they are expecting them to all be the same, so 100 over your 4. You're expecting each thing to have 25. So your actual minus your expected squared over your expected. Do that for every single value. And you get your x squared component, and then do chi-squared CDF with your chi-squared infinity, and your df in this case is the number of terms minus 1. Because that's how stats work, I guess. Everything's minus 1 in terms of df. So you reject it at a p-value of 0.024. And how much did the apricot cell contribute? Well, that's just part of our test we did. So actual minus expected squared over expected, 4.84. 59, give the correct order of the following from least to greatest of a normal curve. First quartile is just 25%. You probably already know that. 30th percentile, 30th percentile, 30%. And the value of a z-score of -1. Well, you have a 50. If you go to normal CDF, negative infinity to -1, 0, 1. You get that there is a 15.8% chance of having a z-score of -1 or less, so 15.86. Least to greatest, 3, 1, 2. Can2 investments, those accounts, and these are all the possibilities. So you'll basically want to put all this in stat edit and use your probability as your frequency list. So put all these into L1, these into L2, one variable stats, freq list as L2, and then you simply multiply your 300 million you put in by your mean return to find your average return, basically, or your expected amount to earn. So yeah, that's the entire test. Sorry if I wasn't able to give the explanation you want. If you leave a comment about a question, I'll try and go in more detail about it. Alternatively, you can ask me in person and I can, like write stuff down, give you visuals, and actually answer your questions live to hopefully better explain it to you. Or just ask one of the teachers. Some there are I imagine there's at least one teacher at our school who, if all the teachers combined their power, they could answer almost all these questions. Maybe not like the Perihelion or Amphiolian one, but probably all the other ones. Maybe not the Peritherian. I don't know. Anyway, see you later. I'll be doing more tests. Number since next. I have no idea how I'm going to do that one, but see you later, I guess.